This is the brand new MacBook Pro, and I don't like it. Yes, it's got the same look, same amazing display, better battery life, and convenient I/O, and yet, at $1,600, its starting price is actually a full $400 less than last year. But that's because it's not actually the same. Because even though this has the new M3 chip, it's not the M3 Pro. Therefore, this cheapest MacBook Pro actually replaces the 13-inch Touch Bar MacBook Pro from last year. So compared to the previous entry-level 14-inch MacBook Pro, this has less power, and outrageously, only 8 gigabytes of RAM. Okay, there's actually lots of reasons why I don't like this laptop, and I'll tell you all of them. But don't worry, because I still have a recommendation of what I think you should buy instead, even though I think you're still gonna buy this. I do not like this color. Silver is way better. If you buy the brand new MacBook Pro in space gray, you're making a terrible purchasing mistake because you'll be signaling to the world that you're poor.
You can't say that.
I can, because space gray is only available on the inexpensive model. Those with money looking for power have available to them space black. Though not exactly black, I think many of the Dark Soul MacBook users are really going to like the way this looks. It's certainly much better than Space Gray. It's also better than the MacBook Air's Midnight. I've been using that laptop for well over a year now, and I cannot keep it clean. Apple's new anodization seal does in fact reduce the sight of fingerprints, though, except maybe mine, which is why I'd of course stick with silver, which is available across the line. But back to power. As I discovered with the iMac, the M3 chip is good enough to work for me day to day, but only if I get an upgrade of memory. 8 gigabytes of memory is really hard to justify in a computer that says Pro and looks Pro, and it shows that Apple is stubbornly and frustratingly holding its users back with flash memory. Remember when Apple still sold their flagship iPhones with a paltry 16 gigabytes of storage? God, that was awful. You'd have to delete everything off your phone just to update it. And it's even worse than that, because if you wanted a storage upgrade, the next tier was 64 gigabytes. This feels like the MacBook Pro version of that, and you'll be pining for that extra memory. And I got the graphs to show it, but since I mentioned the iPhone, it reminds me of this video's sponsor, Bandwork. They make stylish and high-quality Apple Watch bands and cases for your precious Apple devices, like your iPhone, which definitely has enough storage now, right? Their slick and simple aluminium cases frame your iPhone with supple leather from the Heinen tannery in Germany. And hidden behind that leather is even a MagSafe ring for sturdy wireless charging. So head to the link below and see all that makes Bandwork so special. In my DaVinci Resolve export test, which is a GPU and memory-intensive export, the cost of reduced memory is 12 minutes. And in the real world, the cost is constantly using swap memory, which taxes the SSD. While I do feel like Apple did improve memory management somewhat in Sonoma, it's little consolation for anyone who's spending a lot of money for a laptop they hope will last them many years. Speaking of the SSD, this is technically a storage upgrade compared to the Touch Bar MacBook Pro, but you're still paying for it. My next issue with this MacBook is that, well, just look. I have an HDMI display plugged in here, and still have spare USB-C ports for a second monitor here, except I don't, because you can't use both at the same time. Which is not very pro. Especially considering that you could do this on the previous, much slower Intel MacBook Air. While I'm on the topic of ports, the cheapest MacBook Pro has fewer and older Thunderbolt ports. The one found on the right side of the more powerful versions is gone, and the two on the left that are left support Thunderbolt 3 instead of the current Thunderbolt 4. I don't like this MacBook because it's so hard to explain, but it's not entirely without merit, because experientially, it's great. This is equipped with the same ProMotion Mini LED XDR display that the more expensive models have been getting for years now. It looks stunning. ProMotion is especially great for when you're gaming at the 40-ish frames per second this thing delivers in Resident Evil Village. What I noticed most, however, was the brightness. The screens on all new MacBook Pros support 600 nits, and when you're sitting opposite a sunny window, it really makes a difference. Furthermore, this has the same great speakers found in the other MacBooks too. This actually matters because, I don't know if you know this, but the previous generation 2-port MacBook Pros actually had a different speaker setup that sounded worse than the nicer models. Not the case here. Oh yeah, and then there's the battery life. This is at the top of the heap. In our video playback test, labs measured around 24 hours of battery life. In my general usage, I got around 12. Nice. And there remains the handy SD card reader as well. Photographers rejoice. But wait, a few months ago I suggested that the 15-inch MacBook Air is the perfect laptop for photographers. I still believe that, but spec'd with the same storage, that MacBook Air is only $100 less than this. This dang ladder. Apple prices things in such a way that when you start upgrading your Mac, you get so close to the next model you think, I might as well just get that anyway. And for the past few years, it seems that all roads lead to the M Pro powered MacBook Pro, which I have no problem recommending even today. But you're in the market for a cheap one, so what should you buy if you have $1,600? I'd recommend you look for the M2 Pro MacBook Pro. On sale or in the refurbished store, it costs about the same as this. But the M2 Pro is a faster chip, unless you're doing single-core tasks. The extra performance and graphics cores make a big difference. But the reason I think that even with this awesome recommendation, you're still going to get the base model MacBook Pro is because you can't buy the M2 Pro. I searched high and low, and I'm having a really hard time finding one. And I think Apple knows it's better. So if you do find one, snag it. Okay, so what other options do you have? If you know you're not going to be taxing the GPU in any of your tasks, but you still want the best screen and speakers, get this in silver with 16 gigabytes of RAM for $1,800. If you need to save more, a 13-inch MacBook Air with the same upgrades can be had for as little as $1,500. And if you want to save the most, a basic version of that is less than $1,000 in the refurbished store. The biggest issue I have with this MacBook Pro is what I fear it could potentially mean for how the lineup shakes out over the next few months. The MacBook Air's price drop and 15-inch version released this summer makes me worry that those computers are going to be stuck with the old and slow M2 for a while. Which should make this MacBook Pro more appealing, right? No, it means that the steps in the ladder are getting closer together. Thanks for stepping up to this Mac address. Make sure to like and subscribe, and in the comments below, I'm curious how you feel about the 8 gigs of RAM available on this. And if you want to watch another video, I guess you can watch the one I did on the M2 Pro MacBook Pro, because those thoughts are still relevant.